Hi, gang. Welcome to the video. I know it's been a little while since I did the last one. The things have just been kind of crazy, but good crazy. So, very excited tonight because we have our first guest to the YouTube channel.
Oh, wait, I'm the first one?
You're the first. You are the first. I didn't want to put that pressure on you, but no.
Oh, well.
They're good people. They're good folk. They won't give you too much crap.
No, I meant you're exposing me to them.
This right here is Jame Nettles. I am reading his bio right out of the back of his book, which this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. It's Business Essentials for Writers. I highly recommend this book. I got to meet Jim at a panel at Mysticon, and he was kind enough to let me take a look at this, and I have found it to be an invaluable resource. And from some of the stuff we were discussing earlier, it is part of a kind of an ongoing series of books that he's working on. So to let you know a little bit about Jim, Jame Nettles has consulted on and managed business and technological transformation projects in North and South America, Europe and Asia, for businesses from startups to Fortune 100s, and about everything in between. He is a University of South Carolina graduate in entrepreneurial management and management information systems with studies in anthropology, sociology, and philosophy. A fiction and nonfiction author, he got his start in media in college and continues to write, speak, and consult in the fields of privacy, artificial and business intelligence, next generation technologies, business processes and strategy, and entrepreneurship, as well as writing tools, technology, and craft. He currently lives in Charlotte, North Carolina with his wife and hounds. I just like saying
the hounds.
Release the hounds. He is the CEO and founding partner for Author Essentials, a project started by writers for writers. I'm going to link Jim's website up in the information at the below the video. So please go check him out. And I would highly recommend the book, which is what we're going to talk about mostly tonight. Jim?
All I know is I need the recording of you reading that because it makes me sound like I've done something.
It's very impressive. I was just like, philosophy too. I was very impressed with the sociology.
I minored in cultural anthropology, specializing in magics and religions. So
that couldn't possibly be of help at all with any writing or anything else, or just for fun. Just for fun. All right.
I had professors that were pissed that I didn't go the anthropological route. I had some. Yeah.
Well, if you've been at a convention, that's kind of like an anthropology study. I mean, it really you could write a dissertation on that easy. So, Sharon McCrum wrote a couple of novels off of it, as I recall. Jim, what motivated you to write this book? And like I said, the folks who watch the channel, they're interested in learning about writing as a job, kind of the ups and downs of it. And what do you think would be of value to them in your tome?
My tome, yes.
Tome.
Well, the history of this book is kind of muddled. So much like much of my career has been, if it hadn't been for that right turn at Albuquerque, who knows? Albuquerque, yes. So I got a start in media kind of by accident when I was in college, because my freshman year, a friend of mine knew I was a photographer, was like, hey, so you want to go shoot some pictures? Sure. Next thing I knew, I was shooting for the paper. The next thing I was covering an election, and the next thing I was freelancing for the AP as well. And so going through college, if my Gamecock press pass didn't get me in, my AP press pass did. And amazing how that works. So, and being the smart ass kid, it was helpful because I just wanted to go shoot football and concerts and comedy and stuff like this. And the next thing was nobody else liked to shoot. And I grew up in politics and small business. So nobody else wanted to shoot some of the other stuff. So it was like, oh, okay, well, there's an astronaut speaking. I'm going to go cover that tonight. Oh, so-and-so's, if it was there, I would go cover it. So, I mean, I met ambassadors, astronauts, media people, business people. I went to dinner with Timothy Leary. There was all this weird stuff, in my college years, because I was never smart enough to go and say, oh, I probably shouldn't do that. And being that I am the shy, quiet one in my family,
Good
a
Lord.
lot of things.
Thanksgiving must be a treat.
It's interesting. So being the shy, quiet one in my family, it's one of those things of you kind of have that look and go, oh, well, what the hell? I'll go give that a try. And so it led to, people all of a sudden the next time, broke college student. Oh, you'll pay me for that article? Oh, you'll pay me for pictures? You'll pay me for this? Mm-hmm. And my mother was an English teacher. So, I mean, I grew up around writing and language and all the rest of this. Yet my sister's the one that's really a grammar Nazi that it was known to make her English teachers cry. And so growing up that way, and I wrote for a number of years, and as I moved on in my career and moved heavier into technology, consulting, being a software vendor, traveling, I mean, because most everything I was doing was in financial technologies, financial services, fintech, but I've done stuff in construction, AI, I've done green technologies, I've done all sorts of creative technology stuff. So, I mean, I've kind of crossed the gambit of stuff. I've been owned or been a partner in a number of companies and businesses over the years. And so it's been a really interesting experience. And I went back to writing in my late 20s because I was doing some media coverage type stuff because I was going to conferences, I was speaking at conferences, or I was traveling places. But I went back and started writing fiction again. I sold some short fiction when I was in college that was all really god-awful, horrible, and probably should have never seen the light of day. But once again, I was not smart enough to know that. And somebody handed me $25 for a short story. I'm like, cool. Yeah. I could do academic work and crank it out very quickly. And, one of those ideas of short fiction and stuff was really fun. Well, so I went back and did some short story stuff when I was in my 20s and 30s because I traveled. You can only watch so much bad TV. You can't count on getting pulled into a series because you never know, is tonight dinner with a client? Am I stuck in the airport? So you just...
But you can go home. You can go back to the room and you can, bang out a few thousand words or, whatever mm-hmm. whatever you can do for the night. So...
And it was good for my mental health. Because it also helped me to process and get things ready for some of the work I was doing, consulting we were doing. It was a stress reliever. It was not something where I was trying to produce work to be published. I was doing it because it was my way of processing. And so it was a fun thing to do, plus the fact it's easier to kill somebody on the page than it is to get rid of the bodies. And so...
True. Very true.
Very true. And so doing that kind of work and traveling all the places I went, you could always sit there if you were stuck on an airplane, you were sitting on the tarmac. If you needed to escape that fact, you were surrounded by people and you're crammed in this little tiny tube to sit there and whip out a pad and paper and start sketching out an idea or a story. Because one of the benefits of traveling like that and seeing some of the places I've been and sitting in an airport means you get to look at the best and worst of humanity. You get to study people. Yeah. You're sitting in hotels, you're sitting in restaurants, you're sitting in offices, you're sitting there. You get, you go through some places that are absolute abject poverty. You go to some places that are extraordinary wealth, and you kind of get this weird view of the world. And I already had a weird view of the world to start with. So you start going and you hear that snippet of a conversation from somebody and you go, huh, well, how do I twist that? And, to keep, I don't do well bored. And so you play these games. My wife and I will sit, and it's been a while since we've done it because we don't go out in public, but if we would go to dinner or go to concert, go sitting there, watch something, and you could watch people, and we both have stood
Yes.
and play the game of, is it a first date? Are they married? Are they getting to,
Yes.
what's going on? And it was really interesting to watch and study people that way. And that was one of the reasons when we started dating, she was like, oh, you're one of those twisted people too. Okay, we can play this game.
I think a lot of writers are. I actually think that, I've always loved that. I'm not a big fan of people, but I love to people watch. And and all that stuff. I mean, eventually some of it will work its way into whatever you're writing. I mean, it'll some fascinating people that you can pull this conversation from one person, this physical appearance from another person, and pour them into what you're doing. So at some point you realize that you were hooked, and that
I mean,
this was what you were going to be doing.
I mean, and like I say, even to this day, writing is only a portion of my professional life and career. But I mean, it's a mixture of fiction and nonfiction. I mean, I write a fair number of articles. I do ghostwriting. I do, we work with clients that are, part of that. We do some stuff with clients that are professionals, speakers, consultants, business owners, things like this, where we actually try to help them develop real book products or speaking products or educational products that are good and good quality, not the crap that gets cranked out by book as a business card type engines.
Right.
It's do you really want to represent yourself? And so I do a limited amount of that. I do some ghostwriting. And then, of course, I get to go play with my fiction, which is my stress reliever and is a great deal of fun. And I've been very honored and kind of blessed for people who have liked some of what I've written and had fun with it. And, and then occasionally you get the 1-star review that somebody goes, I don't get it. And I'm like, you're not my reader.
I have a T-shirt that someone, my very dear friends, it's the godparents of my children. They did this T-shirt. It's a 1-star review that I got for one of my novels, and it made me laugh so much. It warmed my heart, and they made it into a T-shirt for me. So I've gotten to wear that at some conventions and stuff. So yes, I totally get okay, this wasn't written for you. But boy, I got under your skin, didn't I?
So, the long way of me saying that is the reason that this book came about was a number of years ago. I would have friends ask me a question and I'd go answer it, and they'd look at me and they'd say, you're one of those weird business techie people. Now, in the business world, they go, you're one of those weird creatives that doesn't work. So I don't fit into either. You're straddling both worlds. I straddle both worlds and fit into neither. But they would ask me a question and I'd answer it, and they'd look at me and go, that all sounded really important. I had no idea what the hell you just said, but it sounded great. And so I started down the path of looking for something I could hand people and go, read this, and then come ask your questions, and I couldn't find it. And so then I started doing the thing of, because I was writing articles for some of these other different publications and stuff. I was like, if it was something I could adapt easily into the publishing industry, I just would rewrite it and adapt it and post it up in Quora and all these different places. Because I'm like, if I got to answer it once, I may as well answer it once and then be able to point people back to it. Well, then I started something called The Writer's Mind, which was a website that I just started posting all those articles to it. It was basically a blog site I threw stuff at. So if somebody asked me something, I didn't have to remember where I'd posted that answer.
You can just say, go here.
Go here. And so I was sitting, I was at a convention in New Orleans, and it was the first convention my dad had ever gone to, because he said, you're going to New Orleans, so I'm going to go party. So he rode along. It had nothing to do with going to the convention or anything else. And I was going to be interviewing Dr. Bembova, that was the guest of honor that night. Wow. And so I was like stacked on panels, because I would be speaking in this room you could see the room full of NASA and JPL jackets. Because we were talking about AI and Battletech and some of the sort of stuff. Then I'd go over into another room and talk about comedy horror. And then I'm going to
It's
go to this
nice to
room and
have
talk.
options. It's
Then I go to this room and talk about marketing. Then I'm going to go over here and talk about data privacy, counteracting everything I just talked about in digital marketing. And so I had texted him and sitting there. He's like, yeah, I'm sitting in the bar. I'm like, well, okay, I know where I'm going to find you. I'm like, great, get me a beer, get me a sandwich. And I come trucking in because I've got, that 40 minutes in between.
Yes.
I got off of this panel.
Yes.
I've got this one.
that window,
running
which usually gets sucked up by people stopping you in the hallway to ask you questions.
Yes.
That's usually how that
You've
goes.
seen that happen, have you?
I've experienced that a
have
few
you?
times in passing. So.
And so I come running into the bar. He's sitting at the bar. Dad's sitting there with a couple of people, which is not uncommon. He's going to find somebody to talk to. Again, I am the shy, quiet one. And
That's a terrifying prospect.
I grab the chair at the bar. I pick up my beer. I have a sip. And Dad goes and says, oh, yeah, we've been chatting. And he reaches and says, hi, I'm Ben. I said, yes, Dr. Boba. I'll be moderating you here.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
so
awesome. That's awesome.
So, and I was talking to him about some of the stuff with the project when he goes, when's that going to be a book? I said, well, funny you mentioned that. I'm actually working on condensing all of this, compiling it. Had some chats there about trying to, get it turned into commercial product and everything else. And the problem was everybody that wanted the book only wanted the book. And I teach workshops and there's all these other tie-in pieces that I'm doing with it. I'm like, it just became a mess. And I was feeling like, I would rather hold on to it and be able to do exactly what I want to do and not have to then fight about, can I do this or can I do that? Can I teach the workshop? And so
own the whole thing.
I own the whole thing. And so then I started Author Essentials as a workshop company. And then it became also a services company by accident. Right now, the website looks like hell. The workshop.
I don't know anything about that either. I have no knowledge of that experience.
Yeah, we were renovating all this stuff to do this major next leap for 2020, and then this weird thing happened in 2020. I don't know what it was.
And 2020 happened. Yeah, pretty
2020 happened. And I lost about 6 weeks in March and April to 2020. And when I came out of that, I woke up and we had started another digital convention and another media company. And so
that would be continual,
which is that way. But anyway, so that's where this book came from, was about 4 years ago was the first draft was done. And I expected to have it out like in 6 months because I've cranked out plenty of these books. And then I started going to my friends with the draft and going and saying, so what do you think? And this was everybody from, I have New York Times seller in front of my name to I've not yet published a book. And I was fortunate enough to have a lot of friends that would beta read it and help me hammer it down and refine it. So it took a lot longer to come out. I had drafts of it come out about 2 years ago because I had committed to teach a series of workshops and I needed to have the drafts in hand. But the official launch was actually back in January. And so
I guess I met you in February.
Well, we met at Dragon Con and a couple other things before, but yeah, it was.
I think we finally sat down at Mysticon. Yeah. So
yeah, we sat down at Mysticon. I was like, "Here you go. Here's your guest of honor prize."
And this thing is it is absolutely amazing, and it covers so much stuff from every aspect of what you would be interested in if you've been in the business for a long time, or if you have never been in the business and you kind of like jump in with both feet. This has been just, first of all, it's a fun read. It's just fascinating. There's something on every cover, on every page that I enjoyed and found so much value in, a lot of value in. And we were talking just before we started recording, and you were saying that this is actually going to be part of a series of books. Is that the plan?
There's several more that are already in various stages of drafting, some of which was pulled from material that got culled out of this. because the next one is actually a marketing book. It is about your reader avatar. So everybody that's familiar with the idea of a customer avatar, well, it's your reader avatar. But I'm talking about it not only from the aspect of here's how you sell to that person, it's how do you communicate with them. Because I look at being a writer and being a reader as a co-creation experience. The way that you interpret what I've written is going to be different. I can describe something to the nth degree, and you'll usually see in my fiction I don't. I usually give enough to give a flavor, because if I describe somebody down to the nth degree, and occasionally I do, I'm taking away some of that creative experience. I'm making you try to force that picture in instead of focusing on the
building
essence
your own
of the
picture.
story and the person and the world building. It's what are the important essences. So I view this very much as a co-creation experience between writer and reader, because no matter how detailed I make it, it's still not a movie. You're not going to see the screenshot. You're not going to see the angle I filmed this from. You're not going to see.
You're going to have your own angle.
Way.
Yeah, every person reading it's going to be shooting it from a different angle. So
they're going to have their own angles. They're going to have their director's cut. They're going to have all those pieces. So when I took that took that approach, it's about how do I communicate and reach that one person that's my ideal reader. So it's how do I market to them? How do I communicate better with them? How do I build a relationship with them? And most importantly, if I have somebody that is not my reader, not the person I want in my sphere of influence, how do I make sure I'm not communicating with them? And sometimes I think that's the most important part that people miss in marketing is I am a firm believer in ethical marketing. And ethical sales and marketing means I'm telling somebody that could enjoy or benefit from what I do. I exist. Here's who I am. Here's how I do it. This is why I do it. And then from there on, it's up to them. I mean, you can go, and if you go to somebody that's putting on a hard sell, that's usually all about them. It's not about the person who needs the product or the service. And that's true whether it's a book or a car, a yacht, a house, whatever it is. The person that's trying to sell you something, their first problem is for themselves. Where I believe we as creators, while we have, we're running a business. I mean, that's the first thing that I think most creatives miss is you own a business. You're not just a writer. You're not just an artist. You're not just a maker. You own a business, and you have to treat it that way. And you're
creating a product that is yours. It is your intellectual property, and it would be the same if you were building chairs, or you were building boats or cars or baking bread or whatever it is. Being a chef, you're making something that is exclusively your baby. It's your thing.
It's going to have your taste, your love, your flavor, and all in it. And we all want everybody to love our baby and get the hell over it, because it's not going to happen. If you're trying to make everybody love your baby,
some people are going to think your baby is ugly.
Some people are going to think your baby is ugly. And the problem is, if you try to make everybody love your baby, some are going to think it's cute, some are going to think it's ugly, and a lot of people are going to think, well, okay, it's a baby. You want to write to the person that really wants to read it or will benefit from it. And I think this is one of those things.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think this is one of the other things that we miss as creators is that, yeah, we may be writing a story just for somebody to read and have fun with. We also can forget the fact why people read. It's not just the entertainment. It's the factor of escape. It's the factor of seeing somebody else's lives through somebody else's eyes so they can kind of figure out their own. I mean, a lot of people don't consciously think about this, but as we read in genres, if we find a character we like, if we find a story arc we like, that's why we like series. We get to know that character and build a relationship with that character. They're a friend, yes, if it's written well enough. And if we're deciding to let that into the way we think, because even if we're not conscious of it, reading anything is going to influence us the way we think, the way we feel, the way we act. And as a creator, we have an obligation to educate those potential readers what they're going to get and what they can expect out of that experience. Because at the end of the day, selling a book, selling an audiobook, selling a movie, anything else, you're selling an experience to that person. You're selling knowledge to that person. You're selling an escape, or maybe, maybe somebody is reading, for example, let's say somebody's reading urban fantasy, because we both write in that genre. Somebody's reading it because they want the tinge of horror, because things can be so horrific in life. They want to see somebody else for whom it's a little bit worse, and they want to see him get out of it. They want to see him survive it.
And I think a lot of folks read urban fantasy for their world and their life is not there's nothing particularly dynamic in it. It's sort of like every day is kind of the same. Mm-hmm. So it's intriguing to read something where every day you're going through your everyday life, and suddenly this wondrous or miraculous thing pops up in your life, or horrific thing pops up in your life.
I mean, and when I wrote the Home Summoning series, which is one of mine, is written from the perspective of somebody who's kind of clueless. He's very powerful, but he's been sort of outcast. And his arc is trying to clear his name. It's the good old trope of he's got a price on his head, and it's his own people, because he's not entirely sure what happened. They don't entirely know what happened, but he's being blamed for a lot of people dying, and it's on him. And so but because he was a teenager when it happened, they're like, okay, yeah, we can't kill you yet, but you can't stay here. We're going to send you out on walkabout. Well, because of family influences and connections, I describe this series as being Harry Dresden thrown into the world of American Gods on a really bad day.
Oh,
and
wow.
It goes downhill from there.
That's a nice description.
And so he grew up around all these uber powerful beings. He's a magic user, but he's had his power stripped. So he doesn't have most of those abilities. He was left with a couple of things to survive on, but really doesn't have his power. He's surrounded by all these old gods, who some of whom are his mentors, some of whom would like to see him dead, but nobody can kill him, unless of course it's an accident. Ha ha ha! But nobody can kill him. And this whole story started. It started as a baseline of a dog and his boy. And yes, I meant it the way I said that.
Yeah.
It started as a little short story that became a 7-book arc. The
Wow.
last 4 will come out eventually.
Holy.
And a spin-off series and all the rest of this. But again, it's that idea of he's kind of oblivious as to, even though he's on the short end of it, the experience he grew up around with, the people he grew up around with, the beings. I mean, one of his mentors is, the Queen of the Amazons. So he's kind of been raised around all this stuff. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay, you want me to go do this? All right, sure. This idea of there's magical realms right up next door to, the mall. And, it's fun to blow both of them up. When you're in that sort of a realm and have that level of oblivion, and then you are being surrounded by people that are normal, that are still shocked that any of this exists. And they're like, are you that clueless? They're traumatized by this. And he's going, what? Huh?
And I do think that that's one of the reasons that urban fantasy, I think, has remained very popular, is it's just, there's, if you go into like epic fantasy or high fantasy, low fantasy, any kind of fantasy, you're kind of going, okay, I'm traveling away from my home and I'm going into this other world. I think urban fantasy meets you halfway. Urban fantasy, you're going down the street to the 7-Eleven when the world kind of comes crashing into you. And I think there's a real appeal to that. And it seems to be something that it doesn't seem to lose a lot of momentum. I mean, I know there are like fads and trends. I know urban fantasy is still pretty popular and seems to sell pretty well. But that seems to be something that is not really going away. I don't see it going away anytime soon. Go ahead.
The reason I mention all that is that the Avatar book is going to be written to identify, how do I find that reader that not only likes urban fantasy, but is going to like that particularly twisted, dark comedy version that I'm telling.
So your
How do I
your reader avatar is basically, you're looking for like your kind of perfect sweet spot reader, kind of.
Mhm. But I also want to tell you, how do I identify the person that is not going to care about my book? How do I find the person that's not going to care about what I do? Because you want to make sure that you know who that is too, so that you don't wind up spending time, energy, money, and other resources accidentally marketing to that person. Because when you start doing Facebook ads or other things like that, if they start going, why the hell are you showing me this, and calling it spam and other things, A, means you're burning money on ads where it's not productive, and B, that starts knocking down the ratings of the ad, which means fewer and fewer people see it.
See it.
So it's a mixture of strategy and technology, which changes so frequently that it's hard to get that in a book. But if you understand who the person is you want to communicate with, because the other part of it, I believe, is not just about how do I write the ads in the ad space to know that person. How do I write to that person so that I can communicate my vision to them better? And I believe
and
all
I
of
think that's
that.
something that a lot of writers don't have any clue about. I mean, that's really, again, straddling a couple of different worlds there, because most folks, when they write something, I don't really think they think about the people who are not going to like it. They just think everybody's going to think this is great because I like it, so everyone else must like it too. So that is a service. That's actually I am looking forward to that one.
So am I. I just got to finish it.
When do you? And I know I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but when do you? What is your target for that? When do you think that might
the 11th?
light of day?
The 11th.
11's a good number.
It'll probably be towards this time next year, by the time I finish the draft and it goes through the edits and goes through kind of the same hammering and review and process. The good news is, and I mean, like I say, while it took a long time to write that book, that was not 4 years of me doing nothing but that. That was, I'm going to work on this a while. I'm going to go let it out for beta. I got other stuff to go write.
Right. Of course.
And then 4 months later, I come back to it and I go to a stack of feedback and I'm like, then I walk away for a couple of weeks. Then I come back again and go,
and the stack's still there and it's bigger.
And yeah, and I go, and I walk away. Then I come back and I'm like, all right, time to go hammer this down and go through all the feedback and feel the pain and go through people saying, this is too much. This is too much. And I'm sitting there going, but this is still in my, and I will tell you, this is one of those things openly, is something in my head that will be, I'm like, but this is 101 basic stuff. Everybody's like, no.
Yeah. That can be a problem. You sometimes can assume folks know stuff that you know.
They don't.
And they don't.
And so this is 100% a very baseline 101 book. And so I'm building kind of a series that is going to be kind of the 201 that dives deeper into each of these topics, like the marketing book. There's going to be an accounting book that no one will ever want to read.
Except accountants. Accountants.
Yeah, I had a former life as an accountant. Even I don't want to read it. And so if I can find somebody that's written a really good product on the project, I don't really have to go recreate that. Like Tammy Lebrecht's book on newsletters. Even though there's some things in it I would have done differently, some stuff I'd have addressed differently, I don't need to go write a newsletter book. I'm happy to refer people to her book, because it's, even though it's now a little dated and there's some things that are slipping a little out, and I had pinged back and forth with her a little while back, and she's working on the next new book. If somebody's written something that's solid to me, I'd rather go and say, go get that, go read that.
And you'd mentioned that the next iteration of this is going to have a lot of links and directions to other resources and things like that.
So if you come out to the Author Essentials website, which is primarily designed to,
I'll put that up. I'll put the link up for that.
Yeah, it's authoressentials.net. We've got a bunch of articles and stuff out there. Now, we haven't had any articles and stuff drop since, I think, April, because we've been working on Continual and, 2020. But that's about to resume. And we do a monthly newsletter that is a combination of writing tips, writing prompts, business articles, editing, because I've got a bunch of different people that contribute every month to that. And so I invite anybody to come. It's a free resource. I'm building the resource list off of Author Essentials that will be there. That's a freebie list where we go recommend stuff. One of the next new.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. After you.
So, we're getting back into book reviews and things like that for good tools and resources there too.
We're kind of running down on time a little bit, which basically, just so you know, we're running out of time because I have to get to the grocery store before the grocery store closes.
And because I'll talk until Tuesday.
And no, I told you I wanted you to. It's all good stuff. It's very valuable, and the folks who watch the channel, all three of them, the folks who watch the channel, they're here to find out as much as they can about the writing business, and you are just a repository. I said that
repository.
Repository of knowledge about a whole bunch of different parts of the business. And very quickly, and I'm gonna do this in a sentence if you can. If someone is on the ground floor of writing, they have a manuscript in their hand. That manuscript is, we'll say for argument, good, and it has gone through some editing process. What would you recommend their next step be? You can even go a paragraph if you need to.
A whole paragraph. All right, let me mentally edit this down. And so the first thing I'm going to say.
So if you don't get it this time, next.
So the first thing I'm going to say is this: everything you need to do with intention. And I mean that from the perspective of, if you're doing a Facebook post, if you're writing a blog post, if you're debating your website colors, if you're looking at anything, do it with intention. Know what you're doing, know why you're doing it, so you're not wasting time and energy where it's not going to fit. So with that in mind, the number one thing I'm going to encourage people to do, and if you're on this channel, you're already starting to do that, is build the network of people that you can work with and help each other. I would not have a career today. I would not be doing this today. I wouldn't have this book today if it were not for the network of friends that have helped to create this. And, so having a network of friends that can help critique, having a network of friends that you can sit there and make a phone call at 3 a.m. and go, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. Oh, you were asleep? What time is it? Oh, it's 3? Sorry. I'm still stuck.
And now that you're awake, you might as well help me. That's how I found my agent. I found my agent because I had gone to conventions. I had done the Star Trek story, and it had sold. And that got me a little blip on the radar. And I started reaching out to people after the first novel about looking for an agent. And I had friends who were in the business who could mention people that would be maybe I should look into it. I kept hearing one name over and over again, and that ended up being my agent. And I'm very fortunate for that. So yeah, you're absolutely right. You just you start, if this is what you want to do, you want to try to find other people who can fill in the blanks that you don't know the answer to.
And the one thing I'll add to that is surround yourself with good people that have the right energy about it, because you can get pulled into somebody else's sucking black hole.
Yes,
it happens.
Oh yeah,
especially when we try to help support and take care of our friends. Stuff happens. We get pulled into these things, but you want to find that network of people that are supportive, and you're supportive of each other. And you're more interested in seeing everybody grow instead of, oh, well, they got something I didn't. In the industry.
That's a very good point, because there's some folks who, anybody who's really your friend wants you to be successful and be happy. And if they're not, if it's some kind of a competitive thing, or it's some kind of I want to see you crash and burn because it'll make me feel better. Yeah, you avoid those people like the plague. And sometimes it takes a little while to figure out who they are. but
Mhm.
but
And
yeah,
sometimes people change.
yes,
You know, you
yes.
hope for the better. Sometimes people go for the worse. And so that's my number one piece of advice I tell anybody, whether you've even got the manuscript in hand or not, find the circle of people you can grow with. Because if you're all growing together, then you don't have to make every single mistake yourself. You can watch the mistakes that your other friends make. You point and you laugh and you learn from them
Yes,
because they're going to point and laugh at your mistakes.
yes, yes. And you know, I have been doing this now for, let's see, it's 2020. Um, over what? Geez, let me see here now. I've been doing it for a long time, and every single day I still learn something new from someone in this business. And
Mm-hmm.
you, I don't think one of the great dangers is thinking you get to a place where you know everything. And
Right.
so I
Because you
think it's
don't,
excellent,
trust me.
excellent advice. And one more thing, you had mentioned November is coming up,
Mm-hmm.
and National Novel Writing Month, and you have
National
a
novel.
panel, I believe, or a workshop that's happening.
We have, so I am one of the founders for Continual. We have a growing team of people, and that's the Continual Convention. We're most active on Facebook in the Facebook group for Continual right now. We're growing out the YouTube and Twitch channels. We did a program this week that will drop next week, which is a Nanowrimo Primer. So we walked through how do you prepare for Nano. We talked about plotting. We talked about research. We talked about writing, speed to writing. We talked a little bit about editing. And we talked about how do you deal with your 1,600 words a day when there's family around and Thanksgiving and holidays and craziness.
Yes.
Yeah, so we did a nano primer on that that will be dropping next week, which means I've got to rush it out the door.
And I will put up a link to the Continual site so you guys can check it out. Um, and we're probably going to, I was actually kicking around doing a video uh, on novel writing, National Novel Writing Month, because I hear from so many people who say they're going to try it this year, or I tried it last year and it didn't work out, so I'm going to try it again this year. So definitely I'll try to get folks aimed in the direction of your, I may actually just watch your workshop and then maybe just do a little review of that and send people your way to check it out.
That'll be fantastic. And then the last thing I'll throw out there, now granted November's coming, I am part of a little thing called LitCon. One of the things I will be doing is I'll be doing a free business writers workshop as a part of that. We have a number of free workshops that'll be going on that weekend. I am doing, I think, the 90-minute version of the Business Essentials for Writers workshop, which is an overview, which is based on this book. It involves some stuff that's not in the book, but I'm doing that primer workshop for free. And then I actually teach a 2-day version of this workshop that I don't have the dates for it yet, but we're going to restart in December. And I'll probably go back to teaching that once a quarter. Usually I do those live and in person, but yeah, we're going to go online with it all.
Yeah, give me some links for that stuff, and I will put it with the video here, or if it's after the video is already posted, I can do it on the next video, and just
Okay,
mention people
great.
aware of it, because I think it's all extremely, the folks who really seem to enjoy the channel, I think it would be extremely useful to all of them. So,
And, feel free to reach out to me online. Hit me on the Facebook and, I occasionally show up on the hive of scum and villainy that's Twitter.
Twitter is a sewer. It really is. There's no real way around it. Twitter's a sewer. I go and I put my galoshes on and I go splash through and I put up my little post for whatever it is I'm trying to promote right then, and then I splash back out and get the hell away from it as quickly as I possibly can. I don't make no eye contact. Don't make any eye contact with anyone on Twitter if you can possibly do it. But
yeah, I'm not good about that because every time I go on, I will start a war with whoever's doing book piracy of the day. Because
I know. I've done that several times myself, and I used to be a lot more argumentative and chatty, and then I realized how much time I was just losing in doing that. And never argue with a confident man.
no,
it just wastes your time. It wastes your time. So, Jim, thank
you've
you
got to
so
get to
much.
the store.
I do actually. I'm gotta get those popsicles, man. I gotta get them. I need them. I've been living on Gatorade and popsicles for the last, I don't know, like 4 weeks or whatever. So yeah, Jim, thank you for being so kind of your time and coming on and doing this. And I would love to have you back. And I'm sure the folks who watch this will want you back because they'd much rather listen to you than listen to me blather on. So,
ooh, that's kind of scary. But I really appreciate you having me on. And I'm happy to join anytime. I appreciate, exposing me to your crowd and hopefully not traumatizing anybody too much.
No, I think they're gonna love it. And if they don't, they need to reevaluate their life choices. Business Essentials for Writers, Jim Nettles, James P. Nettles III. I'm gonna put links galore underneath the video. Please go check his stuff out, and I think you will find it to be as valuable as a resource as I have. So, Jim, thank you so much.
Always good to see you, and thanks, everybody.
All right, guys, have a wonderful evening. I will catch you on the next video. Hopefully, I can get one out this weekend. I'm going to try. So, everyone have a great night, and take care.